Now let's look at the book of Judges, chapter 2, from verse 9. And they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnathres, in the month of Ephraim, on the north side of the hill Gash. Now, who was buried there? This was Joshua. So the Bible described how and where Joshua was buried. Remember, after Moses, Joshua was the next leader. He was the one that led the Israelites into the promised land. All right, let's go to verse 10. And all that generations were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. Can you see that? Now, this is a problem. And this is where I have a feeling in my spirit that God is really going to dwell on this point. Now, one of the testimonies that Joshua had in his ministry, in his leadership ministry, was that he somehow, God helped him. During his leadership period, the people of Israel did not rebel against God. I want to believe that Joshua was a very good observer. He has learned so much from Moses. He did not only learn his strength. He did not only see the strength of Moses, he also saw the weakness. So he applied the things he has learned and trusted God to help him. So the things that the Israelites did to Moses during his leadership, they could not do to Joshua during his own time because he learned how to manage it. Are you there? Now, let me tell you something. There's something to take note of. You see, in the time of Moses, when Moses died, the Bible told us that all that generation Moses set, they died with him. So it was the offspring, the children that those people that Moses led, the children they gave birth to, that was the people that Joshua led. So Joshua was like a leader of young people. He was young, so he was also leading young people. Are you there? So it was easy for him to mentor them. These people are not the big ones that will be, questioning him and things like that. Moses had that issue because he was mentoring fathers, mothers, so it was hard for him to actually, to train them. But for Joshua, but when Moses died, that generation died with him. It was around that period that he died that all those generations died with him. So it was their offspring, their children that Joshua led. So Joshua quickly introduced them to discipleship, and because of this, he did not have issues. So Joshua had a testimony that during his own leadership, the children of Israel, meaning that generation that came out of that rebellious members of, of Moses, that generation that came out of them, they served the Lord under the ministry of Joshua. Now, the Bible now told us here now that after Joshua died, all those generations that Joshua led also, they died. Now, that statement does not mean that it was the day Joshua died that everybody was leading now died. No. It's just within that period. They did not necessarily die the same day, but they died around that range. Are you there? Are you getting what I'm saying? Maybe they died in that century, something like that. I hope you are getting what I'm saying. So after that generation that Joshua led, after they died, the offspring, are you there? The children that those people gave birth to, the Bible now told us something very terrible, that these children. Now let's read verse 10 for ourselves so that we'll see what the Bible is saying there. And also all the generations were gathered unto their fathers. That is the generation that Joshua led. They also died. And there arose another generation after them. Now this is now their children, their offspring, the children they give birth to. Now, which knew not the Lord, number one. The children, they do not know God, number one, nor yet the works which he did for Israel. So the children that these people gave birth to did not know God, one. And number two, they did not know the works that God did for Israel. Can you see that? Now, the question is, who do we blame? Should we blame Joshua or should we blame the parents? This is a very big question. You see, if the church will stand the family will stand. The corruption we'll see on our streets, young girls going naked, the young boys, and then everybody misbehaving on the street. And then, unfortunately, I say this with all soberness, our girls are no longer safe on the streets. Once they are a bit tall and then they have small body, boys are already chasing them. You know, there was, there's a time that, a girl of 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 is still a child. Even a girl of 11, 12, that time, there's no much emphasis laid on them. But now, even from the age of 7, boys are already chasing the girls. So girls have now become, that female gender have now become prey to predators because uh, of the attack that the devil launched on the family. Now, it will mean that though this generation that Joshua led, they served God, though, but when they died, their deficiency now became known. You see, it is possible for a man to be making a mistake, and yet nobody will know. Yes, it's possible. When the parents were alive, the Bible told us that they served God all through the period of Joshua. But when those parents died, now we now knew that, oh, these parents, they had a deficiency. And the problem with those parents was that they did not show their children the way, they did not teach their children the way of the Lord. And they did not show their children those mighty things that God did in their midst. So because of these two things, they did not know God. And of course, you can guess what will happen. A generation that that does not know God, we obviously live in sin. Are you there? They will live in rebellion. That's the natural thing. Are you there? You see, any faith we we think we have that we don't transfer to our children, that faith will not last. It will die with us. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh my God. You see, sometimes when God begins to speak to you, the thing looks funny. Are you there? So you are permitted to laugh. But you must know that the one that said that thing to you is not laughing. So if God speaks to you and you are laughing, it's not bad. But don't be overwhelmed with the laughter. Because if you are overwhelmed with that laughter, you may not be able to capture that message the right way. Look at what God said to me. Marriage does not just give you a, a husband or a wife. Are you there? Marriage does not just make you a couple or whatever name they call them. Are you there? Marriage makes you a teacher. Once you become married, you have automatically become a mentor. Once you become married, you have automatically become a teacher. You have also become a discipler. And the first set of people God expects you to disciple are your children. If we don't understand these things, we will just think marriage is for pleasure. I know there are a lot of youths now listening to me now, and then their view of marriage is just pleasure. You know that, let me just marry so that at least I know I have a wife, I have a husband. They are just thinking of the pleasure. We'll go to the beach, we'll be running, they are so excited. Well, it's part of it too, auntie. It's part of it, though, but you see, that thing you are thinking of is just maybe 15% of the entire percentage. You see, discipleship is more than 70%. And how well you have done that discipleship will reflect in the life of your children. Any knowledge of God that we have, that we don't transfer to our children, that knowledge will waste with us. That's why, by the grace of God, I've um, I've committed a reasonable percentage of my life to teaching, to building people. The knowledge must be planted in people. Are you there? So that we will not have these issues that the Bible is pointing our attention to. I don't want to be that kind of parent that I will go to be with the Lord. Me, I will have a testimony that, oh, I walked with the Lord. And then the people I trained, my children, the Bible, they will now say, these people did not know God. No, no. I don't want to be that kind of parent. And I know you would not want to be such too. Are you there? So if we must secure our future, if we must secure the generations that will rise after us, then we must go after them and show them the truth. This is why we have a lot of crises, especially among the youth. You see them misbehaving and doing all sorts of things. The truth is, most of these terrible things that we see people do, the youth are the one doing it. And some of these people, they came from good homes. If you look at their parents, they fear God. But why is it that this one does not fear God? The problem is in discipleship. You see, thank you, Father. Let me show you something that dropped in my spirit now. So if the reason you want to marry is for pleasure, no, I'm growing old. And then some people want to marry because of sex, and then their body is feeling somehow, so they want to marry. So that even me, I will try to laugh. The thing is, their body is feeling somehow, so they need to quickly marry so that at least they have a wife and then they have somebody to attack. Well, it's part of it. Hmm? Is it that the sex part of the marriage is just maybe 10%? As I'm saying that the real deal is discipleship, and that one carries more than 70%. Marriage is mainly a responsibility. Are you there? If you don't see it as a responsibility, it becomes a liability. That's the problem. Are you there? The one now, let me balance this thing. If you go into marriage and you don't see marriage as a responsibility, that you're having that wrong view of marriage, you become a liability. You will be the problem in that marriage. So every parent must understand their duty. I want to be that father that my children can look at me and say, we want to marry a man like you. As a sister, you should be that mother that your girls will look at you and say, I want to be like you. Your boys will say, I want to marry a wife like you, mommy. That's the beauty of this thing. You are supposed to be the first discipler, the first mentor of your children. Otherwise, you see, this problem that, oh my God. Can I tell you something? You'll be shocked to know that, you see, the problem we are seeing now in our generation started from the Bible time. Maybe you are seeing it from the scripture now. Parents who just marry for pleasure. They are just giving birth 10, 12. They can't even take care of them, but they are just, as far as as far as your eyes can see. That's not it. It's about discipleship. Some of us, the reason we are standing for God is because God just raised one man to quickly hijack us, to teach us, to train us. It was not like we got that training from home. That's the truth. Some of us, the reason we are standing, the reason we are now following God is because of the people God is now using to mold us. Because that molding, we did not really get it from home. If families continue to fail, one day this earth will just collapse because we will live, we will be so sinful that it will even this earth will feel guilty accommodating us. So the earth will just collapse and everybody will die.